Hello and welcome to episode 181. I really almost forgot it. Of the Nerds at Large Gaming Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Darby Hamill.
I'm Jeff Mayo.
And joining you today is Jacob Hamill. Hi.
Long time no see, Jacob Hamill.
I know it's been a while. I think since the was it like the best of 2020 podcast? I believe
think that was the last time. Yeah.
And Jacob, we're almost at the time where we're getting to bring everyone back together to do a betting special.
Oh yeah, 'tis the season.
Time for the Summer Game Mess Part 2.
Oh yeah, we still need the punishments for the last one.
Yeah, I feel like we should probably just like give up on these punishments because they're so rarely. It's just for the thrill of victory. It's
more the threat than the actual implementation of the punishment.
The follow through is just very hard to do. We're all adults at this point. But I'm still down to carry my ice cream cones in the actual chain challenge.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
You have to re-download actual chain at some point just to do that. Yeah, well, anytime I'm willing to do that. Well, very happy to have Jacob back on. I feel like this has been one of the longer hiatuses of you not being on, but excited because Jacob's bringing some interesting games to talk about, but also one thing that I really wanted Jacob to be on here for is that you are a published video game article writer.
Well, when you put it like that, I published my first essay, which I'm really proud of. It's over on firstpersonscholar.com, which is a website for I guess I'd describe it as kind of academic adjacent type work. So it's not so much like a website that's focused on the news cycle or the game industry in like a reporting sense. It's more academic like articles on games or games culture or game theory, etc., stuff like that. And so I wrote an essay and I submitted it and got published. And it's on my favorite game of last year, Hades. And the essay is called There's No Escape, How Hades Connects Game Genre and Greek Myth.
Yeah, and I just read it earlier today before getting on here, and I think it was something that like makes sense. It was kind of stuff that I like maybe thought about a little bit when I played it, but it really did make me realize like how perfect like that genre is, or at least just how like perfectly they merged that genre with Greek mythology and just the like I don't know. I think the things that you pointed out about like just the genre itself and how it like fit that was like really well.
Yeah, I mean, and broadly it's about Hades, which if you don't know, it's a roguelike video game that has a Greek mythology theme to it that came out last year. And I'm kind of talking about in the piece how through its reinterpretation of Greek mythology, it becomes connected to other reinterpretations of Greek mythology, which Greek mythology is this protean source of inspiration that goes back through thousands of years, and pretty much how Hades uses its genre, which is the roguelike genre, to kind of explore these thematic connections of Greek myth Greek myth.
Yeah, it was I don't know, it was just really well written. The whole time I was reading it, I thought that it sounded very, very professional.
Thank you. Yeah, and pretty much like my takeaway is that games, just like any other medium, when they can use their really defining elements. In this case, I'm looking at the defining what makes a roguelike and how it can use those elements to kind of continue this ongoing cultural power of Greek narratives. And then also when we look at these reinterpretations of Greek myth, and we note discrepancies or nuances in them, how that's kind of a lens into both the minds of the creators, like their anxieties, their desires, as well as that of the audience, the time in which it was received, which Hades was developed at the end of the 2010s. Came out of early access in 2020. And I think it's, when I look at the roguelike genre in the elements in that game, in Hades, I do see some of the anxieties around the late 2010s, such as being in a pandemic or the state of the world, stuff like that.
Yeah. That's cool. And I mean, it's less of the point of the piece, but I didn't know all that about like Zagreus being kind of a part of Greek mythology, but
much lesser known, more of a blank slate.
Yeah, and more of a like, who knows what he really was. So that was probably a pretty good call to, you can kind of do what you will with him.
Yeah, Zagreus in Greek mythology, I think he's mentioned in Hesiod's Theogony, which is kind of like the origin point of what we think of as Greek mythology today. And Zagreus is this very minor character. There's not a lot of information on him, but he's kind of like a blank slate that you can kind of fill in and color in however you want. And then the way he gets colored in Hades, I think, says a lot about the creators and where they are coming from.
Yeah, it is interesting how it is like, it's Greek mythology that's been around for so long and been done in so many different ways, but it also feels very modern in a lot of the characters, and even like Zagreus kind of feels almost like a take on emo, like the emo protagonist man or whatever, but in a very like different way. It's like and there's something about the core story being, screw you, Dad, I'm getting out of this town, but it like doesn't feel that, I don't know, it's like, it simultaneously feels funny and lighthearted, but also like the message is actually really strong there.
Yeah, certainly we've all been in a situation like Zagreus. I won't. The essay does spoil a bit of Hades' narrative, so if you don't want any spoilers, just be aware of that.
It does.
I got spoiled. Okay. I'm not looking around that game anytime soon anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of made sense. Even not getting to the end, I was like, when I read that, I was like,
that's more of a that seems more of a game that's about the journey more than the destination type thing.
I'd say so. Yeah,
absolutely. So go read that again. Where can they find that again?
That is firstpersonscholar.com. And I would, if you're gonna go there, please check out like the other amazing essays and commentaries that they have. That is a great website.
That sounds cool. We need to step out of just the news hype cycle section of games and go into more, like stuff like that sometimes. The hype cycle's fun, but I think things like that's cool. Man, that's a site that I didn't even know about. So I'll definitely put a link to that.
Well, these who have written for video game websites or articles or whatever, when will I do it?
When that is true. When will you do it, Joe?
Never, because I am an awful writer. No one would publish that.
Well, you're a very good podcast putter together.
Thank you. I found my calling.
Well, Jacob, sorry to make you just keep on talking, but we haven't played any new games to speak of. They're super fun, right? Oh, we will, Jeff. Plug the things that you did. The things.
We have things to plug. We started our Pokemon Black Nuzlocke last week. Starting out pretty well. No one's dead yet. Nope. Though I'm already having nightmares of people dying.
Jeff actually dreamt about
like the night after the Nuzlocke.
Night terrors.
I had a dream that our Lilliput Ron Swanson died, and I didn't like it. He's going to be our carrier for a while.
Until he dies.
Yes. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And our It Takes Two playthrough that we're streaming on Twitch and then putting the VODs up on YouTube.
Yep.
Great game so far.
Yeah, I think you and Celeste really like that game. It's really
we got a physical copy. You want to borrow it?
Yep.
Maybe.
Really good.
Well, actually, I don't know. No, I'm about to throw my girlfriend under the bus here. But I did watch a little bit of It Takes Two, and I think it's a little beyond her skill level.
I mean, fair. It does have a lot of platforming and stuff. It's maybe not the most complete beginner accessibility. That could be true. I don't know. Does it have difficulty levels? Like, that couldn't really.
No, the problem is the stuff that he's talking about. That's not really like unless you change the actual level.
Really no way because it's all puzzles. There's no way.
Yeah, and I think for us, we kind of like intuit like third person camera controls. But for somebody who doesn't play a lot of video games, like moving the character and moving the camera simultaneously is kind of like a big step in, I guess, mechanical dexterity.
True. Yeah, absolutely true. But very good game. Definitely go check that out. But Jacob, tell us what you've been playing.
Well, I think like a lot of people, I've been playing Monster Hunter Rise.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
Yep.
And like a lot of other people, it is my second Monster Hunter. World was my first Monster Hunter experience.
Newbies.
Yeah, I guess Jeff's played some.
Just an old timer.
Yeah.
Jeff's an old time.
I guess going into Rise, I was a little worried because I really enjoyed World a lot. I put a lot of hours into Monster Hunter World, but because it was my first Monster Hunter, everything about that game was new to me. Not just the monsters and like the weapons and stuff like that, but just the general like gameplay loop of you craft gear to go hunt a monster, and then you get drops off the monster to make better loot, which then enables you, or better gear, which enables you to go and hunt bigger and badder monsters, which then you
Get
can
more
craft,
loot.
Yeah, to craft better weapons and armor.
The circle.
Yes, and so that's
Circle of loot.
yeah, and that was my first time experiencing that circle, and I was really enthralled by it. But I was worried going into Rise. It's like, well, is Monster Hunter going to be a series for me where it's like, yeah, I really love like my first experience with it, but maybe on like other games, it's just like the novelty just isn't going to be there for me.
Yeah.
And I am really happy to say that that's really not the case. Rise has its hooks in me in the same way that World did.
Yeah.
I think the Monster Hunter loop that I just described is definitely something that just I think speaks to me on a very enjoyable level.
Yeah, that's something I've been kind of curious as someone who had experience with Monster Hunter before World, and so I wasn't surprised that it was popular, but I didn't expect it to be that popular. I was always curious, like, okay, yeah, is this going to keep people? A lot of people have their own World, and luckily it seems to have kept people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People still seem to be enjoying this one.
And it seems like, I mean, when you look at it from the broad view, this game is very similar mechanically to World, and I think the advancements aren't like crazy on the surface, but when you're playing them, the little improvements and little quality of life things I think do go a long way in Rise. Just whether it's the mobility things, I think zipping around the map, just traversal around the map just feels less tedious and more like fun in this one. And I don't know if it's true, but it feels like I'm like getting resources and kind of moving through the game at a faster clip than World. It feels like when we fight a monster a few times and I can already build out the whole set, where in the World it wasn't. I don't know if that's actually true. It just feels that way. But
yeah, it's hard to say. I recently got to high rank over the weekend, which is something that I was really going for, and I got there, and I looked at my playtime, and it took me about 40 hours to reach high rank, which is about the same, I think, for World. So I don't know if it's maybe like a pacing difference.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, you do hit credits like around 20 to 25 hours, which it's really weird. Do keep playing after
Why am I
you
getting credits right now?
yeah, do keep playing after you hit credits, because there's more story after the game's credits.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. That's what I...
Monster Hunter games are never truly done.
Yeah.
Yeah, credits are arbitrary.
Especially when they're gonna keep on releasing monsters post-release.
Yeah.
I imagine everyone here agrees that it's like this game has zero story whatsoever, and I don't miss it at all. I'm like, just keep it away. Like, honestly, unless you're gonna do something drastically different. I mean, like the world's cutscenes and constant like we're gonna shove this terrible story in your face over and over again was just more of a detractor and annoyance in the game than anything to me. I don't know if y'all disagree, but like to me, I'm just like, no, I love that we can just go in there and start missions and let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, at least for World, I would prefer them not have the cutscenes if it means we have to go in there, get to the cutscenes, then have to leave the mission to do multiplayer. At least here we can all go in together.
Yeah, I do really like the monster intros. So when you in Village, if you're playing Village, I don't know if it's the same with, so pretty much missions are split between the hub and the village. The village is like the single player stuff. When you go and hunt a monster in the village quests, if you're going to hunt a monster for the first time, it shows like a little video of the monster. And Rise has a feudal Japanese aesthetic going on, so I put it on the Japanese voice track. And I don't know, I do really like the videos that it has. The intonation of the kind of like this, like the narrator in the video is kind of similar to Japanese theater in a way. I think someone pointed out that's a lot like the puppet theater, Japanese puppet theater, and so it's kind of calling to the monsters and Monster Hunter and their kind of connection to yokai and Japanese folklore. But I do like those videos a lot. I think they're very enjoyable.
Yeah, world and aesthetic, I think, is great in Monster Hunter, and that's all I think you need. Yeah. It's like the actual like narrative story is what I could.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, Rise is really good. I do like some of the introductions, like the switch skills, so you can kind of alter the play style for your weapon.
Yeah, we're pretty early on in those.
Yeah, for example, I'm maining the lance, and like you can change the dash attack on the lance to where instead of like a running charge, it becomes like a forward shield, like jump almost. I do like the Palamutes, and one thing that I did notice about this game is that the weapon design I think is so much more interesting in Rise than it was in World. In World, there's a lot of like, oh, here's a sword and it has like a little feather on it from the monster that you killed. But here, like you can get, I think like a charge blade that's like a giant origami like thing.
Nice.
You can get
some of Jeff's. What was the weapon you ended up using?
Hunting horn.
Yeah.
Some of those were wild. Yeah. Jeff would buy something in the shop and he'd walk up. He's like, "Sup, guys?" And this thing's like twice the size. I'm like, "What do you have on your back?"
Yeah.
He's like, "I think you used it. I mess around with the hunting horn some. It's a very fun weapon."
It is.
I can definitely tell it made a difference once I kind of understand what I was doing.
Yeah, I think the weapon designs in this, which I mean is a big deal because it's all about like crafting weapons and gear, and I do think the weapon designs are really much more interesting and fun in Rise than they were in World.
Yeah, and I've been happy with the monster designs. I mean, we're not nearly as far as you, but every time we've gone up a level or whatever, like right when I think like, okay, I'm getting kind of tired of these monsters, when we go up to the next one, I think their AI patterns or whatever are always like super interesting. Hell, I just like how when you get to the end of certain fights, how they just start behaving very crazy or changing their patterns. I just think it's a fun loop, and they know how to design like enemy AI in a cool way, I think.
And I feel like I don't know if I'm the only one feeling this way. I feel like the monsters in general in Rise are kind of more interesting. It feels like they're more like less straight up like monsters or animals or whatever, and just things with abilities and stuff, which make it more interesting. It's like you have no idea what's coming.
Yeah, I think there's more variation in like the monsters,
and it makes sense with the whole yokai kind of thing going on, that these things would have more magic ability type. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're definitely more like a little more fantasy. Yeah. Whereas World was more prehistoric.
Yeah, giant lizards.
Thing, reptiles. Yeah. And it's just every time we see one, you always, that first time seeing a monster, there's always like something that's like, oh, that's an interesting thought to that. It's like, that's an interesting chimera, like combination of two animals that I never would have thought of. It's like, definitely, for sure. Definitely, like, I would like to just like meet the group of people who design these, because it seems like they must be an eclectic, interesting group of people who's like, yeah, this is not gonna draw this weird ass monster. It's definitely cool. Yeah. And I was like, I'm with you now. I'm a little surprised. I was a little skeptical about how I would feel about Rise, because I think World and even Rise, I think both of these, I enjoy Monster Hunter. I don't think I'm as hooked on it as you and some other people are or whatever. It's like, for me, it's a fun thing to do with friends and everything. But I was definitely concerned that going into Rise, am I going to just feel like I kind of got all this out of my system in the World? Is it just is this loop really going to?
Because it's fundamentally not different from like every other Monster Hunter game.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of, and this is kind of a problem that I think happens in a lot of games in general, but also a lot of Japanese games, I think, like kind of beat that same, do a thing and then beat that drum over and over again. But at least for this one, I feel like it's doing enough that I'm into it. I think if it keeps going the exact same way, I think we might get to a point. But at least right now in Rise, I'm still having a good time.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's great. I'm excited to put a lot of hours. I've already put a lot, but I'm excited to put even more.
Sometimes it's nice to just have a video game. You know, it's not taking the control from you and being like a narrative, like gritty, that's cinematic thing. It's just fun gameplay.
Yeah,
that's what Monster Hunter Stories is for.
Yeah, that's sure.
That is ultimately like something that I do really like about Monster Hunter, especially with like the Japanese voice track that I'm using. That they just sell, I think, the enthusiasm and the excitement that's just baked in to Monster Hunter on every level. Everyone's happy and pumped all the time.
Well, it's basically like Pokemon, where in Pokemon everyone's obsessed with Pokemon. Pokemon's all they talk about. And here they're like, yeah, let's go kill some animals. Let's go hunt some monsters.
Yeah, I mean, like everything from like your character just like downing the dango in like one bite and then getting really pumped up it just makes me smile.
All the palicos are just pumped. Getting hair all in your food, but
you learn to live with it.
It's like, yeah.
I like hair in my dangos.
You would, Jeff.
Yes.
You sick bastard. But yeah. Well, Monster Hunter Rise is great, but what's this other random game that we did just like slipped onto our dock that I've never heard of?
Yeah, so this game popped up on my timeline. It's called If on a Winter's Night for Travelers. It's a point-and-click adventure game on itch.io for free. And it's only about 2 hours at most. So
I do if on a winter's night and then for travelers.
Right.
A comma in this title of this game.
Right. So it also caught my attention because besides it looking very cool, it is a reference to the book If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino, which is a book that I read in high school, and it's kind of a postmodern novel where it's written in the second person, and it's about you reading the book If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, and then as you go through the chapters, all the odd number chapters are about you reading the book, and then you realize that someone has inserted the first chapter of 10 other novels into the book you're reading.
What the hell?
So first chapter is you reading the book, then you jump to another chapter. It's on a completely different story. And then on chapter 3, you're like, wait a minute, someone's inserted this chapter from another book.
God.
And it goes like that.
That's crazy.
It's an interesting novel.
Drugs.
This point and click adventure game is not, you don't really need to read the book to like understand. It's kind of just a reference to the game's structure. Not so much like being directly inspired by it in any way. It's broadly about 4 travelers in the 1920s, and they're on a train, a mysterious train going somewhere. And the point and click adventure is about, them telling their individual stories about how they arrived on this train. And so I will say up top, like huge, like content warning. There is depiction of suicide throughout the game. So if that is a problem for you, then just be aware. But it's, I think, a really good story. Again, it's really short. And again, you're 4 different characters, and they're kind of telling their own stories. And
so is there like a through line for all these different books being like shoved into one thing? Like, is there like, does it seem like there's a reason for it, a rhyme or reason to it?
Oh, on the book?
Yeah. Like, because you're going through it, but you're just like going to another book and then going to another. Is there like some weird connection between all these different first chapters of different books?
It's I mean, spoilers for the novel, but
I mean, yeah. I guess maybe you shouldn't answer my question. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll leave it up to you.
I mean, I read it so long ago that I don't really remember. It's more of like a structural sort of thing. So like there's these stories and they kind of build, and then like the chapter ends right as like, the climax of the chapter is about to happen, and then it jumps back to you, the reader. But this game, it's not so much like about that. It's about 4 people on a train and their individual kind of stories. And it's not, again, it's a very there's like references to the book throughout the game. but it's not. It's a very loose connection.
Okay.
But It's on a Winter's Night for travelers is a really good point and click with some really gorgeous like pixel art, I would say. And it does make excellent use, I think, of the space on screen. So the game is kind of like in a 4x3 like square format. And
So it's Zack Snyder.
Yeah,
So,
pioneered by legendary filmmaker Zack Snyder.
Watch the Snyder Cut.
Truly a visionary, but it, even more so than that, like when you're in the train car and the characters are talking, like the train car is like even tinier on the screen. So you have like the square and then like a really like small rectangle representing the train car, like in the center of the screen.
Nice.
And so it does use space. It kind of like draws you into like that kind of like close quarters of the train car very well. And then like one of the characters is this wife to an aristocrat, and she's in like this large opulent kind of mansion in the English countryside. And so then it kind of opens up a little bit, and like the scenery can take up the full square of what is being displayed. And so I think it's a game that's, again, it's short, and it's free, but I think it's really worth your time.
That sounds very, very interesting.
Yep.
I still am hung up on the weird chapter thing. I'm so interested.
Darby doesn't even want to talk about the game. Let's talk
I
about
just
the
want
book.
to know. I just want to know how that works. You know? Yeah, but no, that does sound very cool. Well, dope. Well, Jeff, let's get into some news. News jingle.
Jingle, jingle, jangle. Oh boy, do we have some news today?
I'm making up for last week. Me and Jeff just had to kind of bullshit around about Mario and Zelda for a while.
Yep. So yeah, we're gonna talk about Sony. Jason Schreier from Bloomberg posted an article with a bunch of stuff in it. So yeah, there are gonna be a bunch of, I guess, mini discussions in this thing. Let's see. Don't know where to start.
All right.
Well,
let me
I
look
think
here.
the big news that come out of Jason Schreier's piece is that there is a Last of Us 1 remake in the works at Naughty Dog, but his story is much bigger than that.
Yeah,
one news.
it's one of the things that we'll get to that part, the Last of Us thing in general, real quick. But yeah, the whole article is kind of framed around the Sony Corp's Visual Arts Service Group and kind of what happened with that.
Yeah, there's like
studio.
There's a more personal sad story within the kind of larger Sony like direction and some of the problems that are happening with that. But yeah, I mean, focusing on the smaller story, it does kind of. I think they're connected to each other. It's like you see this company that was given this remake, or they were making this remake of Last of Us, right? I mean, that was always what they were doing.
So the way it went generally, like they were just they helped with other games, like with visuals and that kind of stuff, and they're like, hey, we actually want to be a studio, we want to do our own things, and they thought, okay, we can do remakes for Sony, like Demon's Souls, that kind of stuff did well, or not, I guess not at the time, but you get the idea. Like, okay, let's do Uncharted. That's the one they pitched originally. Sony was apparently like, or someone higher up was like, no, that sounds like it'll take too much work and too expensive. Do The Last of Us.
Right. And even from there, they were given it, but not really given a lot of resources. And then it was basically just kind of like they were told to go help Naughty Dog with Last of Us.
Part 2,
and it just became Naughty Dog's project.
Yeah, the way exactly happened is, they started working and didn't get resources. Right. Last of Us Part 2 was getting close to the end, like, go help them. Then afterwards, Naughty Dog people came over there to help them, and because Naughty Dog people worked on the original game, they had more say and eventually kind of pushed them out.
Just became their project.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of just more of a microcosm of the entire kind of Sony philosophy right now, which, it has like kind of been this way for a while, but I feel like they're getting more and more and more to be a very conservative gaming company, where it's like they are very, 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 very risk averse to, I think, a pretty detrimental degree in a lot of ways that we're seeing, where it's like even an Uncharted 1 remake, which I still think is kind of ridiculous. Like, go make some new games. like even that's ridiculous, but even that's too risky. let's go remake The Last of Us, which is a game that has a very, very good remaster right now. You can play it on PS5 with like the 60 frames. It's like
Isn't Last of
very
Us
good.
remastered on the PS Plus thing? Is that what is
think
it?
it's on there,
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's readily available to.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely readily available, and it's still a very, very good and well-running game. But it's just like that's the point we're at, where it's like it's so hard to get a lot of companies, especially companies like this, that are set on like, no, we must have the biggest money makers and only the biggest money makers. That you're only gonna go for what you know is like easy. Okay, we know this has a big audience, and we're not gonna take any risk anywhere. And I think that goes broader into just Sony in general. When you look at their catalog, even though a lot of these games are really good, they're all the same type of game. Like they're different variations on the third-person semi-RPG action game.
Yeah.
I mean, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us, Spider-Man, they're all that. The Horizon, they're all some
Days
version
Gone,
of
which
that.
we'll get
Days Gone, yes. And yeah, they're good at that, but I really do feel like in the infinite timeline, that starts to burn people out like me. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting less and less interested.
And I think what will help with that burnout is the fact that most of the games we just named, they're getting sequels. Like we know for sure they're working on those sequels and they're announced, or we can assume they're working on sequels for Days Gone, which we'll get to. But yeah, and Sony, you think about, they have a very good catalog and everything, but as far as actual first party studios, they don't have as many as like Microsoft definitely does at this point, or like Nintendo and stuff. And the fact that the vast majority of them are working on the same kind of game, and these games, since they're all giant scoped games, take so long. It's like, what more are we going to get for them? Yeah. We might get more Returnals where they're kind of publishing a game or whatever from a smaller studio.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I just like it's hard to say like Sony's gonna be doomed for this or something like that, because they are like they're making lots of money, and like this type of game is proven to sell. I mean, that's the kind of frustrating thing, when I feel like these companies, they kind of have to be diverse and unique when it comes to this, almost against their own like good sense. Like that's because like this makes good business sense, at least right now. I do think give it long enough, and I do think it'll start to backfire. I think Ubisoft has but I don't know. Ubisoft still kind of like does its own formulaic thing, and it makes a lot of money. I don't know.
Yeah, those games are still breaking records. I think what all this is going to be a thing, like, you know, the three of us will probably at least, you know, complain about or whatever, criticize it, and maybe even expand some more into the general gaming sphere that we kind of follow or in and a part of. But general public, like with the Ubisoft games, they'll just still sell.
Yeah. But when you see like internally, when the people know, it just really seems like, I mean, Sony is just becoming a very kind of corporate, we have our big blockbuster companies, and it seems like even internally, it's not just the franchise that they care the most about. It's like, we're going to give all the money and all the resources and all the power to
these
Santa Monica,
studios.
Naughty Dog, now Gorilla, and Insomniac and everything. And everyone else just kind of has to play support to that. And I think it's a lot more interesting when you have multiple avenues here.
Yeah, like you just said, a big part of this article that's making them clear, and it's, you know, just kind of reinforcing something we kind of already knew, is some of the developers within Sony aren't exactly happy, and a lot of people are leaving. Obviously, Sony Japan people leaving, and that whole thing getting shut down. Yeah. And with Sony Bend and stuff also kind of having that little exodus, it seems like, because of everything that happened within this article that Jason described with Days Gone.
Yeah. It just in general makes them a less interesting company to me.
Yeah. I mentioned this to Darby, and I feel like, at least for me personally, and probably other people at this table, maybe going forward, the most exciting thing for Sony, like press conferences, where it was kind of the first part thing, it'll still be that to a point, but I feel like we'll get to a point where we're more excited because they money had all some of the big third parties, like the Final Fantasies and the Resident Evils and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I am
Yeah. I kind of figured.
Yeah, I mean, this news it's not too surprising, but it is like, I think a kind of a slap in the face, I think, to a lot of people, especially with them shutting down the PlayStation 3 and the Vita store recently. That news, it's like clearly, like in Sony's opinion, like they quote unquote won the console war last generation through their first party like prestige AAA titles, and I think they're going to double down on that in this, in the PlayStation 5 generation. And I guess it remains to be seen if that will work out for them in the long run, or if that will eventually grow stale. But in my opinion, I think they're going to keep focusing on these prestige titles, and I think it's going to keep financially working out for them, because I mean, these games are expensive looking, and expensive looking games more often than not get really good reviews and sell like a lot of numbers. And I think it's it's not really, you're not really going to see a shift with Sony unless there's like a big, I think, paradigm change among like a wider gaming audience about, is this really, gritty AAA, serious games for serious people? There's not going to be a change away from like viewing that model as like synonymous with excellence, and like this is peak video game. I don't think there's going to be really a change in Sony's like efforts.
I heard Ratchet and Clank does really well.
Yes, yeah, Ratchet and Clank is like one of the few things that slips through the cracks. But yeah, that's the kind of like deflating thing, is that as much as I like those games, but it's like, yeah, one God of War 2 is going to make up for whatever they lose in not having 3D platformers or not having like other weird like random things, because that one thing is going to sell so much that they don't give a shit that they don't have.
If God of War 2 can sell 6 million copies, well, that's just as good as funding 3 other like niche games that sell 2 million each.
Right. And it's probably simpler and easier to just have one studio doing all of that rather than having these different things. But yeah, the frustrating thing about Sony is like, just like all of this, I wish that just they would do what like Microsoft did and everything comes out on PC and everything everywhere or whatever. I would care less. But Sony has this one thing they do. They do this like third person gritty action game, or like adventure game, and they don't do anything else. So to make up for not doing anything else, like Jeff said, they throw their money around to make sure that they have exclusives like Final Fantasy and Deathloop and Ghostwire and all that stuff or whatever to like nail those things down. And it's just kind of it just feels gross, It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, the fact that we're back to the point where Final Fantasy games are, at least for a time, PlayStation exclusives, just sucks. Because I'll still get to play those games because I have a PlayStation, but they're, after having 15 and the 13 trilogy on Xbox and stuff, there's no reason to go back.
Yeah.
No reason to go back to just being on that one platform.
And we're still, if there was ever going to be something that in a long enough timeline makes Sony have to squirm some or whatever, it would be their competitor playing the complete opposite play from them, which is what Xbox is doing, with Game Pass just being more of a variety Netflix of gaming, like
their
type
studio
thing like
has
that.
Kind of crazy variety and all that kind of stuff, and has a big range as far as games.
I still don't think it actually shakes out that way. I think they might both be successful, and obviously if Xbox is successful, that might be on its own pressure Sony some. But right now, from where they're standing, I think Sony has no pressure. And this news also kind of like this, showing a little insight into just what their priorities are, paired with shutting down the PS3 servers and just having like no answer for a lot of games that are just being like locked away the time. It's just like, I don't know. It's just kind of feels like the video game industry is doing that thing it does all the time, where someone gets on top and then they become very kind of arrogant and like, we're making money. We don't care how many people we piss off because we're making money. And like, it just seems like that. This is the cycle. It always goes, and then they crash back down, and then they're like, "Oh, we're the scrappy, like consumer friendly," until they get back up, and then they get that again. It's like every time, going all the way back to Sega and Nintendo. It's like the same shit every time.
Yeah, consumer goodwill is only important for you as a company when you're on the bottom, and then once you're on the top, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, and this is exactly why I'm like, there's things like Xbox buying all these studios and Double Fine and everything, saying like this is way better for them right now. And it's like, I get that. I'm not arguing that it's not, and like that's very good for them. But this is why I'm always like, you should always be cautious when you're owned by big corporations, because they might seem scrappy. They're like doing everything that's good for everyone right now, but 6 years from now, that could be completely total different leadership, or like the suits at the top are like, no, this is wasting money.
Yeah.
Scrap all of this. Like, you are at the whims of this company that like you are a split spreadsheet. Like Tim Schafer Double Fine is like a tiny little Excel like cell to. And Microsoft that could at any moment be like, what's that doing here?
Yeah.
Delete, you know? It's like that's the
What the
problem
fuck
here.
is a psychonaut?
Exactly.
We're losing how much money on this per year?
It's like
yeah, wow.
out, yeah. I mean, you see like companies like Google will do that shit like that 6 months after putting out a product, because they're like, we put that out. Why did we put that out? Get rid of it. Well,
Yeah. Well, I guess we can go a little deeper into, I guess, the
Moses said, I'm glad I don't pay attention to any of the corporate video game. It is exhausting and kind of demoralizing in a lot of ways. But
yeah. Well, we kind of mentioned, I don't know how much more we want to talk about the Last of Us remake being a thing. Like Darius was like, the most unneeded remake probably ever, or at least up there. Like, why?
Yeah, and we just have too much of it. We have too much of a culture of remaking games. I know I'm saying that when like Final Fantasy VII Remake is like my most hyped thing in the world, but it's like when we're remaking things from 2013 that have already gotten extensive remasters, when this could be putting, you could be putting this effort towards something kind of new, like anything else new. It's like, this is just not even a game that, who is asking for it? Like, it's not like, I would play Last of Us, but it just looks so bad. It looks so old, It's like, really? Is anyone saying this?
Yeah, it's readily available. There's a remaster on the PlayStation 4. It's readily available on the PlayStation 5. It's not like, say, Demon's Souls, which got a remaster, but like that game was only on the PlayStation 3. And importantly, its online servers have been shut down. So it was, you could play it, but it wasn't the same game as it was, back in the day. And I know, Jeff, you and I were excited for like that Nier remake.
Yeah.
But importantly,
but that was a bad game.
Well,
that was going to be a good game. I'm not.
I mean, importantly, I guess because like the PS3 stores were shutting down, but like Nier, I'm pretty sure was not even available digitally. You had to have a disc to play it. So it's, I think, really important that. That's getting
I think that's important to bring up. Like Nier is a perfect example, because the time between when Nier came out, if I'm not mistaken, in this one, it's probably going to be roughly the same as when The Last of Us came out. And The Last of Us remake would probably come out, because I imagine this won't come out to like 2023-ish. So it's roughly the same. But kind of Darby was saying, because of availableness and everything, and just the fact that it can be better. Nier, needed that stuff.
Yeah,
it's a different scenarios and just the time of it. The more facts than just, this is a 10-year-old game. Boop.
Like whatever advancements of The Last of Us will be like, okay, it plays a little bit better, just like
yeah.
Last of Us
And also, I think a good example of that is people's reactions to Resident Evil remakes. People in general were excited for 2, and even they were disappointed by it. And when the 4 rumors were starting and everything, I saw a good many people were like, "Do we need this though?"
You can play RE4 and it plays relatively okay. You can play it on just about anything.
Yeah, I got it on my Switch.
Yeah.
So it's just
It just seems like a waste of time and energy. And
we
go in the.
Yeah, and the other big thing of this people are talking about is the fact that apparently a Days Gone sequel was turned down. That Sony Ben was showing that to head Sony, being like, "Yo, can we make this?" And like, look at the Metacritic scores. Like, hell no, fuck the money it made. It didn't get us rating reviews.
Like, heads up, Sony. The numbers that matter is what fans actually thought and the sales or whatever for it. Like, the Metacritic really doesn't matter.
I guess we don't know the exact sales of the game, but based on it sounds like it sold really well based on the stuff we were able to get, and the farther we get away from that game, the better the fan reaction to it is. I'm seeing more and more people play it and be like, hey, this game's actually really good, and people are excited for a potential sequel, whether it be because of the story setup for it or the fact that it's like, okay, this game was rough, but the potential of a sequel here, like what they can fix and
Obviously,
improve on.
I don't care about Days Gone whatsoever, but like a Days Gone sequel sounds a lot more interesting or a lot more worthwhile to make something new or whatever continuation of that rather than just rehashing the things we do over and over again. And the other part of this is they're already making a new Uncharted game.
Yeah, well, it looks like they're not making the Uncharted game. They were looking at doing it, but Ben was like, "No, we don't want to become Naughty Dog North or South or whatever the hell." Yeah. And they're apparently working on a new IP now.
But the fact that they were already wanting to do that kind of shows.
Well, also he just said, was like, "We don't need another Uncharted." I know, I haven't played.
We will get one.
Yeah, I know. We don't need one.
We don't. I love Uncharted, but it's time. Move on. It's time for something else. Mm-hmm. And Moses said they're going to try to frame Joel as a sympathetic sympathetic hero or something in the remake. I would scream if they try to change it. Well, because of all the fans being mad about part two. I would be like,
I guess we'll see between that and the HBO show.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I feel like Druckmann will kind of put his foot down on. I mean, we're not even thinking that. I don't think he needs to put his foot down and just won't do it.
I agree.
Any more to say about any of this Sony stuff?
Yeah, I think the Days Gone news was probably the most surprising bit out of there for me.
I don't disagree. I kind of said that. I mentioned the Derby when we were originally talking about this. Like, I don't know what's more surprising to me, The Last of Us remake news or the fact Days Gone 2 is apparently not happening. Because I thought that was a sure thing.
Yeah, I think it definitely just speaks to Sony's obsession with, again, like being being seen as this creator of like only like the
most pristine
premier
titles.
Video games. Even though Days Gone, we got what 7 out of 10. Like video game reviews are such subjective things, anyways.
That might as well be 2 out of 10 the way they treat it.
I mean, in my opinion, like a 7 out of 10 could be a 9 out of 10 to you.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Like I was saying about the reaction, it is a 9 out of 10 to a lot of people, and that's what really to a lot of fans, it's a 9 out of 10, and that's what should really matter. And there are even people I've seen that, hey, yeah, I was harsh on the review, but it kind of came around / I do want a sequel for this game, despite what my review said or the score I put on it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know.
All right. Well, let's talk about some E3. Got a little thing to read to get all the information out there. Then we'll dive in.
Is it real? Is it alive? Who knows?
A digital-only E3 has been announced. It will take place on June 12th through 15th. Companies already confirmed to be involved are Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two Interactive, Warner Brothers, and Koch Media. Some of the bigger companies missing are Sony, Square Enix, EA, Sega, Bandai Namco, and Activision. And June 7th through 11th will be pre-E3 Media Days.
So how close to a normal E3 is this going to be?
Oh, nothing close. I think people will hype it up and then be disappointed.
I somewhat disagree. I don't think it's going to be a normal E3, but I think nowhere close is going to be kind of a wrong statement. I think this is going to be the main Xbox and Nintendo showcase of the summer, and I think that's enough to make it an E3 like we think. Like, I think this is where you're going to get the Smash character. I think this is where you're going to get Hellblade, all the Xbox.
The reason I say nowhere close is, yes, Xbox and Nintendo will be a big thing if they do show their thing. Nintendo, I think their main direct will be here. I'm not as sold on Xbox having their main presentation necessarily here. But even if you look at these other companies and what people like, the way they talk about E3 and the way they talked about last summer is, if not everything's here, they'll say it sucks. So from a fan perspective, that's why I say nowhere near.
I don't know. I think when people talk about E3s, I mean, obviously it's going to be less than a normal E3. I mean, obviously. But I think the things that they talk about are big companies.
It's just part of the fact that we got all these other big companies that are not going to be there, or presumably not be there, at least not announced yet. And then we have Jeff Keighley's thing, so not everything's going to be at E3
Yeah.
compared to previous years where everything was at E3 announced during that time frame.
I just think they're gonna have enough announcements here that I think E3 is on its way out the door in a lot of ways, but I don't think that this is gonna be it's done after this was nothing. It's like E3 is dead. I don't think it's. I think you're gonna walk out of
See, the thing is, I kind of agree with you. I think we'll think that, but again, the internet is hyperbolic as hell.
but they do this for everything.
Yeah, I know. But that's how we're measuring the reactions to these things.
I suppose.
Yeah, by that measure, everything is a failure.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's why it's hard to read these things.
I do expect this E3, whatever shape it will, form it will take. I think it might be a little weaker than I think what a lot of people will be expecting, even if they have very, realistic expectations, because COVID has put such a monkey wrench into game development timelines. Yeah. I think we're really seeing that more in 2021 than last year. Yeah. And I think that's going to show up this year at E3. I think there's probably going to be more maybe cinematic teasers or just a hesitancy to announce projects or timelines or release dates in some way. I think that's all going to come into play.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I mean, I think we've shown that I think last year was a freaking mess with just announcement spread too thin. As a consumer, I prefer E3 because it's just nice to have everything in one thing that I can watch. But I think the ESA is a pretty poorly run organization when it comes to this, and I would like for it to go to someone else or some other option. But I just do think at the end of the day, I think enough is going to flock to it this year to make it that.
I am honest, unless they change their tune from what we heard, I'm surprised anyone is there. Because I had no idea why they would pay for it.
I agree, but they are there.
Yeah.
They paid. They're there. You see honestly, just Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Ubisoft. You have enough of an E3 right there. Obviously, it's not going to be a lot of the smaller games that you maybe see little things for. You're not going to see, which sucks for them. But as far as just E3 being a going concern, just those companies I listed right there, boom, that's the biggest gaming show of the year. Maybe Game Awards beats it, but just me listing those, it's all right, boom, that's it. So I still think it's going to be the biggest.
Again, depending on the show, I'm still not completely convinced though people have their blowouts here necessarily.
I think they will, but not that those companies will, obviously.
Okay, so one thing I'm very curious about. For Xbox, Nintendo, if they do have again, I think Nintendo will have the big blowout. I'm not completely confident on Xbox, but let's say they do, because they're big third party. Xbox presentation has a lot of third party games, and Nintendo has a decent amount, depending. Will we see games like Square Enix and EA just inserted into those things?
Could be, yeah. They've kind of done that in the past. Square Enix doesn't always do their own E3 press conference. That's just been a very recent thing.
I know Square's doing their whole solo stream thing for the summer.
Square Enix will probably do a combo. They'll probably do some of their own things, but then throw a big announcement into Microsoft's thing. That's kind of how Bethesda treated it.
Well, Darby, actually, I got to fight back on this being the biggest gaming thing of the summer. How can you say that when Bandai Namco's not there, therefore no Elden Ring? Come on.
You're right. Like I said, Elden Ring's been out for a year. Ring Fit, it's right there. That's your Elden Ring. Yeah, and no Tales of Arise, which is the more important Bandai Namco game.
It's true. And Digimon Survive as a close second.
I guess is Nintendo gonna have shit to announce?
Well, they got the Smash character. I think Breath of the Wild has a decent chance of being there. I still, even though that rumor we were going to talk about it is end up being fake as far as what exactly it is, the potential Fire Emblem remake, that's been rumored forever. Just it in general. The rumor just came out about which games it was going to be, so I think that has a chance of being announced just anytime.
Yeah,
if it exists. just other things. Bayonetta could come out of the woodwork at any moment.
Certainly good.
Yeah. And probably some other stuff we're just not sure don't know are coming.
Well, we'll do reactions if we can to whatever happens, depending on the time.
Yeah. I might try to take those days off. Screw it. I need a vacation. So yeah. Moving on. I guess talking a little about Sony a little bit. Abandoned. It is described as a new cinematic first-person horror survival shooter with a realistic eerie vibe from Blue Box Game Studios, and whatever I read, information comes from Rebecca Valentine from IGN. Yeah, it's kind of main thing. It's being made exclusively for PS5, coming out Q4 this year. I don't believe it, but that's what they're saying. I don't believe release windows. I barely release dates.
Well, I mean, I hate to be that guy, but the sad part is, like, we wouldn't be talking about this game. Who actually cares about this game? The more fun part of this whole story was that everyone thought it was a Kojima game.
See, I was gonna put it in here before that was a thing.
Oh, were you? Okay.
I was actually going to
I
do
just
it
assumed no one
because it sounds and looks interesting. So I was just gonna put it in here.
Okay, if y'all think it's interesting, go for it. I thought we were just putting.
I mean, I didn't say it like as necessarily as a big news story. I was gonna at least put it in the podcast somewhere.
I felt like a real old man watching that trailer because I was just like, man, is this like in game or is this a video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The graphics did look really incredibly good. But as for like the premise of it, the pitch as being like a realistic horror game, I mean, you can go on Steam and there's already like a huge like audience for like realistic shooters or games that are have a lot of realism, especially like in the gunplay going on. So I'm sure this will do fine. I mean, it already has a community carved out for it.
Yeah, and it's going to be back by Sony, obviously, which would be interesting. And I'm very curious about they put in there it's going to take full advantage of the DualSense as far as like with the triggers and all that and 3D audio and all that, which sounds interesting. The most best thing about that trailer was kind of the visuals, like, oh yeah, this does look realistic, and it was kind of vague as far as like what it actually going to entail in the game, I guess. So I need to see more, but it's intriguing. But yeah, as Dario was saying, most people talked about this because everyone thought this was a secret Kojima project. Even though the studio released something in 2015, they really thought it was a long con.
Which, I mean, but if you look at it, I mean, it doesn't look like it could be. Like, it's a random, like, name that just seems like a very, like, simple, nondescript name, and this is just, like, weird thing. I mean, like, Kojima kind of did this or whatever. And, like, I don't feel bad because this is the best thing that could have ever happened to the studio. Is for this whole Kojima controversy thing, like thing or whatever. Because now more people are talking about this game than they ever would have without that whole saga, which was fun. Like if you have to come out there and say like, no, we're not Hideo Kojima. I mean, that's good. You have eyes on me. Like, good for you. Like any internet vitriol will pass over and it'll end up being a good thing for you.
Yeah.
I guess I completely missed this Kojima story because I was just watching the trailer. I was like, huh, it looks neat.
Yeah, people like they had to come out and make a statement because everyone thought it was like.
And I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of with him where I didn't know about the Kojima stuff until afterwards.
I heard the Kojima stuff first, but I'm not a big horror guy, so I was not really paying attention to this game.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of Kojima, I guess we'll get into that bit. This comes from Jeffy Grub from VentureBeat. It's an article where he was talking about Abandoned, and the article is called Abandoned for PS5. It's not a secret Hideo Kojima game. I'm just reading one paragraph from it. But the biggest piece of evidence I have that Abandoned is not a Kojima joint is that Kojima is in talks with Microsoft about publishing his next game, according to a source familiar with the matter. And yes, that statue on Phil Spencer's shelf was referencing a potential deal with the legendary developer. I cannot confirm if Xbox closed the deal yet, but my understanding is that Kojima is the focus of a Microsoft plan to tap into Japanese talent. This is surprising yet not surprising in some ways, depending how you look at it. I guess it's surprising that Kojima may be going straight from Sony exclusivity to Microsoft exclusivity. Yeah. Though I guess with at least the Microsoft one, it will be on PC right away, or it'll be okay to be on PC. which I think Death Stranding's done well in there. So
Yeah, I think I saw like 4 million copies sold on Steam floating around, which is really good.
I have not seen that. That's something I would put in here, at least in quick
fair,
news.
that's
Yeah,
very
that's very good.
I think I saw a number like that floating around.
Okay, yeah, I've heard people say it did well, but I didn't see any exact numbers. Yeah, that makes sense. And this going like, I don't want to harp on Sony too much, but this is add on to the pile of people being like, okay, what's going on at Sony, where they kind of lose Kojima, even if it's not an exclusivity deal. If this happens, they probably won't get his next game.
Yeah, and this is kind of goes along with the Microsoft buying up a bunch of studios, and then I think this also goes along with that. They're just trying to add on to what they have on their, like the Microsoft column versus the Sony column when it comes to this, and obviously Kojima would be a pretty big get.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like, this is going with Microsoft said, like Jeff said, like they've been going after Japanese talent, or they keep on saying they want to.
Yeah, they've been making a push for sure.
Yeah, so this makes sense. I'm sure Phil Spencer smelled that blood, like, we can get Kojima?
And the Bethesda thing made it very clear that the Xbox team right now just has a very big has been given a very big budget from Microsoft, from like the top or whatever, to just spend a lot of money on trying to come back.
Yeah,
games, basically.
I'm very interested to like just see the meetings or whatever as far as Phil Spencer and the Xbox team trying to talk to the Xbox or Microsoft superiors of like, yes, we're spending all this money mainly to do Game Pass, like beef that up, and like them showing the numbers on what this stuff will like.
I
Like,
just gave Kojima such a big check. He's like, Sony,
Sony,
I don't know that bitch.
I thought you were just talking about Kojima, just the heads of Microsoft being like, yes, this is a good long-term plan. Here are the numbers to show it. I'd be curious just to see all that.
Yeah.
Because, they obviously been given money.
Those motherfuckers almost spent 2 Star Wars. Star Wars was $4 billion. That was $7.5 billion.
Darby, I think it's less they're crazy with their money and more Disney got a crazy deal on Star Wars.
This is very true too.
I don't know what they got for Marvel as well. I'm sure that was an insane deal now.
Yeah.
Looking back.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that'd be crazy. Also, like Jeff said later on, I believe that during that same video where people spotted the Kojima like mascot figure on his desk, like, does that mean anything? Jeff Herman said, oh yeah, a lot of stuff actually are hints to things. So people are now analyzing that. People point out, there's a Switch there.
Scouring his desk.
What does that mean? Game Pass on Switch, obviously.
But what's Kojima's gimmick this time? What's this weird thing? He pieced to America back together with ladders and boxes.
Okay. Yeah, as far as not necessarily what the game does, but as far as how the game will operate in some ways. You got to use xCloud to play at least part of the game.
Yeah.
They'll be very vital to the game.
But it accesses your Dropbox.
Yes.
It uploads a random file from your Dropbox onto the it reads your email.
Like Psychomantis, instead of reading your memory card, it's just reading your emails.
It starts reading out your grandma's social security number. You're like, wait, what's going on? Wait, what?
Grandma, no.
I don't even know. Wait, what?
I mean, I gotta wonder. I mean, with like the big Sony news, if Sony would even want to work with Kojima again. Because I mean, if they're not gonna light like another Days Gone 2, I mean, Death Stranding did sell well, it performed well, and I mean, its reviews were divided. But I mean, you probably say the same thing about Days Gone, and who knows if they would even want to greenlight another Koji Pro project.
True. Yeah, if you think about it, the franchise that they're focusing on, Uncharted, Last of Us, like Spider-Man and God of War, are like the biggest of biggest sellers. Like that would dwarf. Like we're like 4 million. Yeah, that's really good. Like to them, that's like,
well, I think 4 million just on one thing.
Yeah.
That we put in PlayStation sales. That's fairly getting close to comparative to Horizon and stuff.
I would like to see. 4 million sounds like lifetime sales to me, but maybe that is all just Steam. But like that sounds crazy to me.
Bunch of double dippers.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. On that, but I also just imagine that Kojima left Konami to be independent. So he's like, I have no allegiance here.
Well, yeah, down the line, Kojima's just gonna be like FromSoft. Like every game is just completely different.
they put another really good game, good selling game. Their stock goes even higher, and they're like, all right, who wants to auction? Who wants to bid? Who wants to give us that money right now?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he does with Xbox. I think, about a year, we're over a year removed from Death Stranding and all the hullabaloo around that. And I think Death Stranding has aged. I thought it was a good game in the moment. I think it's aged better.
Yeah.
I think its core gameplay loop and like what it does is really interesting and different. And I know like we joke about how Sony wrote Kojima like a blank check, and like I have no evidence to point to otherwise. But like when I look at the game, it's like, yeah, on its face, like you have Mads Mikkelsen and Norman Reedus and Lea Sando, and like those people all probably cost a lot of money, but I mean he did deliver this game within like a really good time frame.
Yeah.
And Death Stranding has a lot of like really big, expansive, and empty environments, which could you could criticize that, but I think he was able to flip that into part of the game's like visual aesthetic. And I personally I like Death Stranding's like really open, empty expanses. So I think, and there's a lot of like clever reuse of like assets too in that game. So I think it certainly was expensive in like the broad scheme of video games, but I don't think it was like egregiously expensive. I think he probably delivered a game that was like pretty reasonable.
I mean, it's probably a fraction of like a God of War, Last of Us 2 or something like that, even with Mads Mikkelsen and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Oh well, a exciting thing about this is I'm against exclusivity, so that will suck. But on a personal note, just like with Bethesda, I might actually play this Kojima game if it's on Game Pass day one, since they're working with Xbox. Kojima's kind of like with Bethesda, where I'm interested in their games, but not really enough to shell out the cash.
Yeah.
Also, something I just thought of for going back to Sony and the way they're doing stuff. Like, how long does Media Molecule have?
Not long. Not long for this one. I'm honestly surprised they made it this long.
Yeah.
They just haven't done it yet because it would look too bad because Dreams came out not that long ago. But
Dreams so good. Okay. Well, speaking of Sony money hatting, Capcom has announced a new Resident Evil showcase for March 15th at 6 p.m. Eastern, and apparently files for a new Village demo have appeared on PSN. So yeah, that's happening in a couple of days. Part of me would like to react to it for the funsies. Well, I'll be at work, and also I don't know if I need to actually see anything from this game anymore.
I was about to say, you were getting dangerously close to release. This
I say that, and I'll probably at least play that demo.
This seems prime territory for them to be like, here's the entire game, here's the final boss.
The final game's already out there, though. People already know everything that happens.
Jake,
don't spoil me.
Where's your hype level for 8?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think it looks cool. It's it's a Resident Evil game, and I'm here for it.
Do you like all the 4 alluding to? Doesn't they allude to 4 quite a bit? Seems like.
Yeah, I'm not sure if like they actually do or if it's just similar vibe.
I'm trying to stay away from spoilers, so you can probably actually see how much it is. But I have seen some interview headlines at the very least that people from the team are like, "Yeah, we've had 4 as one more of inspiration for this one."
Yeah, I think my excitement for Village is it's there. It's like a weird thing. It's like, yeah, I'm probably gonna play this game, therefore I'm not gonna like really be tuned into the media cycle for it, and I'm not like really excited for it. It's just like, yeah, I think it's gonna be good, and I'll probably like really enjoy it when I play it.
Well, all I do know is at some point in May-ish, we'll need to get you back on here for me to talk about Nier and Resident Evil.
We will have to do that.
Yes. And Dari can sit there and listen.
And just look pretty.
Yep. As you do.
Yep.
All right. I guess you have any expectation for this thing or showcase? I guess you're probably not going to watch it.
Probably not going to watch it. Maybe if the demo is interesting. Usually their demos are like not connected. They're not like slightly.
Yeah, the last one was they mentioned that the next one I think is not going to be PS5 exclusive, so more people will actually be able to try out this one.
Yeah, and I like to see how that runs maybe on a PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
I'll opt for the PC version.
I'll be playing on my fancy smancy PS5.
Keeps going in and out.
Uh-oh.
Well, guys, it's time for other news. Pac-Man 99 was announced in Shadow Drop.
It says words, Jake.
Yeah, so what does this Pac-Man 99 even look like? Because I didn't
do you
see
know
anything about
Tetris
it.
99?
Yes.
That.
Oh, is it like that? Okay.
It is exactly like that.
I wasn't
but
sure if
Pac-Man.
it was they just put like 99 Pac-Mans on a giant, I guess, Pac-Man maze. I don't know what you would call it.
Well, they're pretty much like, oh, we're killing Mario, Super Mario 35, which I have no idea why the fuck they did that. That's just a free thing for their
Mario is dead, Jake.
That is a free game on your online service thing, which is not very good, and people really liked it. So you should have kept it. I mean, this is cool, but it just seems like a replacement
They executed the plumber.
to bring in the pizza.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know people love Tetris 99. People seem to be enjoying this. Like, sure, they want to keep on making these battle royale-esque games for these classic games. Sure, go for it. Go crazy with it.
Chess.
Chess battle
There we
royale.
go. Chess 99.
Mahjong.
See what I need a Ghost
Jake
and
has been traded for this.
I have.
I need a Ghost and Goblins 99.
Oh, no. I can't even get it through it, not against other people.
Yeah.
I cannot. I mean, I know most people don't know how Mahjong works, but I'm just imagining like 80 people shouting out like cheese simultaneously and then fighting over like who gets the tile.
Let's see. Deathloop has been delayed until September 14th. The year of delays continue.
Yeah. Don't stop.
Yep. Thing is, what would be very interesting about this, assuming Ghostwire and the rumors Starfield release date is true, that's a lot of Bethesda games really close together. Those last couple months.
Starfield still seems insane to me. But
It does, but I at least trust Jeff Grubb that it is planned or was planned.
very important.
That's the very important thing. Though I guess Deathloop and Ghostwire are going to be PlayStation exclusive, while Starfield is going to be Xbox exclusive, if all the rumors turn out to be true.
Yeah.
Very weird. Like this could end up being a way worse date for Deathloop. We have no clue. We don't know what's coming out in the fall at all. But
Yeah.
this summer we'll probably
And
learn that
honestly,
this could end up
yeah.
being a worse date.
And May wasn't too bad. There's Resident Evil and stuff, and Ratchet and Clank and Final Fantasy VII Integrate or whatever. Not too long after that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
About the same time frame between them and like Resident Evil. But those are kind of different. Those are different fan bases for a lot, for the most part. So it didn't really have much going against it.
Yeah.
Like you said, who knows in September? That's prime. Like something suddenly gets announced and dropping there type territory.
Yeah. Because like the summer is the time where you can get random things. I mean, like if freaking Outriders could be as popular as it apparently is, then like I can believe any of these games.
Dude, I saw some of Jim Sterling's video about that today, or looked at some of that. Like, I didn't realize how buggy that game probably is. I'm not necessarily surprised, but it's kind of like where everyone talks about. I'm surprised. Like, apparently, you could just lose all your armor and stuff, like just by turning on the game or something like that.
Yeah, I think I heard kind of funny. They had some bad problems.
Yeah.
I just love that that game's menu is literally the Destiny menu. It is like copy and paste, like not like it's exactly the same font, same colors, same boxes, same everything.
So you're playing it, right, Jacob? Outriders.
I've been playing it.
Good.
I'm already like level 20.
Oh, nice.
Doing world rank 9, I still barely understand what it means.
Neo: The World Ends With You will release July 27th on Switch. I think PS4. It's going to be on Epic Games Store.
That anime have you hyped to go?
So, watch our new show, Anime Gauntlet, probably later this week to learn about my feelings of The World Ends With You anime's first episode. But without going into my thoughts on the episode, it did make me more interested in the series as a whole. And I watched the trailer for this where they announced the date, and it's like, I do want to give this series a try.
Yeah.
Like,
Isn't the art style of this one kind of weird?
The general art style is the same as the first one. It's them kind of going to more to straight 3D models and the actual like battle things. Yeah. And to me, it looks better in this trailer than when it was announced. So I'm not going to get this game right away. I'm obviously going to play the World Ends Review first, especially since, I guess spoiler, is in a trailer. The protagonist for the first game was shown as the stinger at the end of this trailer.
Well, Jeff, don't tell us what you think about the anime, but from seeing one episode of the anime and seeing 2 trailers of this new game, you're an expert.
Yes.
So Moses said he has a friend that keeps screaming at him about Neo, The World Ends With You, and wants him to play with it on stream. Should he play it as a The World Ends With You expert?
Sure, it looks very interesting and unique. You know, at the very least, you might appreciate a fun Japanese anime antics. And I have no idea about the gameplay, so I have no idea how that's...
Does the music slap?
It's something related to Nomura, so obviously.
Okay. I was about to say, I thought there was some hesitation there. It's like, okay.
I haven't listened to too much music. I'm just going to assume that the fact that even though he's not a musician or involved with that, usually when Nomura touches has great music.
Yeah. All right, well, Moses, you heard it from the expert.
Yep. And finally, just to get the clarification thing from our last episode, according to PlayStation, it'll be the show 21 coming to Game Pass with MLB's decision, like we figured.
Yeah, makes sense, because otherwise it's just Sony shooting themselves in the own foot.
Yep.
Very weird.
Add your games to PlayStation now, damn it.
MLB, similar to Kojima, might just be like, give me that check. So Sony who knows?
So is the studio that makes the show, are they like, they're not first party?
They are a Sony-owned
Okay.
studio.
But MLB still owns their license, so MLB
can just do whatever.
MLB's just been like doing this with Sony, even though they didn't have to. But that contract came up, and they're like, "No, fuck this."
The contract had to finally be renewed, so they were like, "Oh, we're losing money by not putting it on Xbox, so you're putting it on Xbox."
And that came first. It's like, oh shit, it's going multi-platform, right? That's
cool.
Crazy. And then like the last few weeks, we learned, oh, and it's Game Pass day one, so it's really MLB's like, yeah, give us that check. So it's really funny now that like Xbox is publishing 2 PS5 exclusives this year with Deathloop and Ghostwire. And PlayStation is making a game that's going day one to Game Pass. It's very strange. Is that the MLB The Show, the thing that Will sent, where that trailer had Xbox logo, PlayStation logo? They're like right behind each other. It was like Xbox, PlayStation Studios. It was like really weird. You whiplash.
Yep.
I do, even though I don't like massive companies like Sony or Microsoft or the MLB, I do appreciate it when outside like companies or organizations come in and kind of like just, you know, they just break the rules of whatever like industry they're entering. I imagine like some Sony executives just like mad and huffing and just like, that's not how that works. You can't do that.
You can't do that?
And like just some guy in a baseball jersey is like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's as far as the like premier like things for each company where you get your free games. So weirdly enough, it's PlayStation Plus for Sony. The new free games for the month is Oddworld Soulstorm for PlayStation, while Xbox gets Outriders and MLB The Show.
Everybody better download Final Fantasy VII Remake last month. I'm going to be very disappointed in all of you.
It's true.
Well,
integrate.
hell yeah.
2 months.
I need it.
2 months from the day.
Right, my veins need it. I need that hot Yuffie content. Right in my veins. Well, gentlemen, that's a podcast.
Is this a record?
I know, but I think we it was good.
Yeah.
We just had a nice, compact, nice, neat discussion. That was good. Does anybody have any closing thoughts? Where's that article again, Jacob?
Oh, it is on firstpersonscholar.com.
First person scholar. Jacob, what are you looking forward to most? Upcoming game.
I guess Nier will be the Nier remake. Nier Replicant is probably what I'm most excited for.
Let's go.
And then beyond that, well, I mean, Village, but I'm also really excited for the Mass Effect trilogy remaster. I have not touched those games since high school, and I'm a much different person now than I was in high school, and it'll be very interesting to go back and look at these games and see what ages well and what does not.
Absolutely. Though, are you gonna play it on your nice new PC?
I might.
Yeah.
I might just. I mean, they're old games. They're just remasters. I might just play it on the PlayStation.
The 4K the lens flares.
It's funny. I've had my PC and all I've played are like really small games, like if on a winter's night, For Travelers, or I played like Alan Wake, like old games like that. I haven't really bought like something new and shiny to really put it through.
I guess I played League that can be played on like any PC in the world.
Yeah, I had a thought, man. In the next month, I got Nier, Village, and new Pokemon Snap. Let's go.
I just play League of Legends and Valorant now. That's all I play. And then I'm gonna play Final Fantasy 7 integrate and Ratchet and Clank. So I'm gonna have 2 bad.
Yeah, like the two things you actually care about, like in the first half of this year coming up.
2 days. What? Like I don't
back-to-back days.
I don't have like any games I care about coming out. The only 2 games I care about are coming out back-to-back days. Like, come on, guys. Spread this out a little bit. Just a little bit.
I did recently do the big PC gamer thing of I spent 5 hours modding Fallout New Vegas, and then I played about 2 hours, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yep. I've yet to
Had my fill.
I've yet to do that, and I'm coming up on a year of having my PC. Am I really a PC gamer?
Well, Darby, yeah, I'll just say, Darby, we need to let me play Skyrim for the first time with a bunch of mods.
With Thomas the Tank.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But, let's do it. Because, really, how about, I can't let a year, I think July is when I got my PC. I can't let a year go by without modding the fuck out of some Bethesda game and making it even jankier than it already was. Okay, we got to do that. We got to do that.
It is required.
And I think I own New Vegas and 3. I don't own Skyrim on Steam, but I can easily.
Fun things can happen.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, apparently it's hard or more difficult to mod on Game Pass games.
It's routinely $8 on Steam.
Yeah.
I'll pay $8 to have some goofy modded fun with you, James. I think that would be worth it. Modded Baldur's Gate, interesting.
Nice.
Ooh, Baldur's Gate, is that coming out? Is that going to actually come out this summer? Or that's the year? I hope it comes out this year, because I'm waiting for the full release, because I don't want to have my progress 8 and shit. But boy, howdy, I'm excited for that game. I've watched Moses play it several times, and I have to stop watching Moses play it, stream it, because it makes me want to play it. And
unfortunately, I look it up. All it says initial release date October 6, 2020. That's not a real release date. Internet.
No, but that's way up there. I anticipated. That's real good. Well, thank you guys so much. Like Jeff said, make sure you tune in to Anime Gauntlet. Even if you haven't watched the anime, I think it'll just be fun to hear us talk about how bad.
Oh wait! I need to see Jacob's reaction to one of the names, and for the listeners to show you what you could be watching. So, Jacob, one of the anime I had to watch. It's called After Being Rejected, I Shaved and Took in a High School Runaway.
Man, yeah,
I think one of mine was what was it, Jeff? It's like I killed a bunch.
I've been
of
killing
slime.
slimes for 300 years and maxed out my level.
that's the title.
That's the title of the anime.
Yes, Moses, anime is pain.
Anime is pain. I'm not someone who watches a lot of anime. They are the ones that elect to do this often. I'm about to double my amount of anime I've watched, and it's I don't know.
Yeah, I don't watch anime a lot either, but I was bitten by the anime bug recently. I think I'm gonna watch a whole lot of Inuyasha
JoJo Part 6.
Is this a remake of it or something? Or is
Sequel.
it like a sequel of it?
The thing that just came out.
Revolutionary Girl Utina? That's what Moses said.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're just devolving into anime recommendations, so I don't know where this.
Welcome to the Anime Pod.
No, we do have an anime pod. It's coming. Get ready. Boy, get ready.
Give me JoJo Part 6 now.
Alright, well, maybe I'll watch Revolutionary Girl Utina. Is it like She-Ra? Because it sounds like mystical girl power stuff, and I'm like, She-Ra is pretty damn great. Alright, thank you, Moses, and anyone else who listens. We will be back next week. Peace. Go read Jacob's article.
Thank you.
All that stuff.
Bye.
Oh, and play on If on a Winter's Night for Travelers because it's free on itch.
Hell yeah. Free. Was it part of the... Oh, wait, it's free.
It's free.
Yeah, it's free. It's too late. I need to get to bed. Good night.